Call me Gabe. I'm the third of 5 kids, raised on a small cattle place outside San Angelo, Texas. We weren't rich, but we did fine. Enough cows to keep everyone fed and a little pride in the name. This was the 1980s. 2 of my siblings were in private school, and I'd just gotten into engineering at a university in Dallas. I wasn't used to the city, the noise, the speed, the way people looked through you like you were glass. I lived with my mom's sister, Aunt Yvonne. She didn't have a family of her own back then, so I became the stand-in son. That's where I met Nate. Nate was my best friend in that miserable, wonderful stretch of my life. Country boy like me, just from a very different country, he'd grown up on an island off the Maine coast, the kind that needs a ferry and a good reason to visit. He was tall, decent-looking, smart as hell, and the kind of person who kept only a handful of friends. And somehow, I was one of them. Girls liked him. He didn't like the attention. He said it wasn't the time, and when I joked he was being dramatic, he said his last girlfriend had died. After that, he promised himself he wouldn't get serious with anyone for a while. I shut up. He had one quirk I noticed early. He was strange about food. He wouldn't touch anything heavy with garlic, ginger, or hot peppers. Said it messed up his mouth, like he was allergic. I saw it happen at a diner once. He bit down on a sliver of ginger in a chicken soup, and by the time we got the check, his lips were inflamed and he had sores forming on his tongue. From then on, I watched out for him. One long weekend, I invited him back to our place in West Texas. He said yes. We got home just as our ranch hand, Paul Hutchins, came jogging up the drive yelling for my folks. Cows calving down by the lower pen. My dad, Robert, didn't waste a second. He and Paul grabbed the kit and headed to the birthing pen. Curiosity dragged me and Aunt Yvonne and Nate along after them. We made it in time to see the first calf slide into the world, wet and shivering and alive. Dad and Paul cleaned it up, got it under heat, and eased the mama to her feet. We were all smiles, busy with the miracle, when blood gushed again. A second one. I glanced down. Nate's boots were vibrating. He was trembling hard enough I could see it, jaw clenched, teeth barely touching, his whole body wired like a pulled fence. I put a hand on his shoulder to steady him. He bolted. He sprinted away from the pen into the dark, and I lost him behind the trees. When I looked back, the second calf wasn't moving. Dad and Paul worked it, tried to get air into it, rubbed it down with burlap, but by the time they wrapped it in an old horse blanket, it was done. We buried our dead animals on the backside of the property, in a pit deep enough coyotes couldn't dig up the memory. On the way there, we crossed paths with Nate. He was calm again, apologizing, said he couldn't handle the blood. I believed him. I patted his back, told him it happens. Paul dug a hole half as tall as a man. They laid the little body in, said a quiet thing that wasn't quite a prayer, and filled it. We went back to the house. Night fell hot. I couldn't sleep. Too much coffee, too much adrenaline. Around midnight I got up, drank water from a jelly jar, and walked the yard to cool off. That's when I heard it. Soft, wet sounds from the pasture. Not coyotes, not hogs. Something working at something. I'm not skittish. I grabbed the mag light and kept low, moving past the moaning cows. The noises came from the tree line near the burial pit. I killed the light and crept in. Trees were moving ahead of me. Not wind, push and bounce, like someone shouldering through. I crouched behind a mesquite, and when the clouds shifted, the moon poured milk over everything. That's when I saw it. At first, my brain said person. A bare-chested figure, back slick with something, crouched over the fresh dirt, tearing into the earth with both hands. Then it leaned into the hole it had opened, and when it came up, its face was shining black. It didn't have a beard. It had blood, thick and dark and clotted around the mouth. It peeled the blanket aside and opened the calf with 2 hands like it had been waiting all its life to do that. Steam ghosted up. The thing ate. I froze. The smell, it wasn't just blood. It was sweet and spoiled in barnyard, like the inside of a dead animal warmed by sun. My stomach flipped. I tried to back away slowly, but the jelly jar slipped from under my arm and hit rock. The crack rang through the trees like a bell. The figure jerked, I ran. I sprinted for the porch, hit the steps, and slammed into someone in the dark. Arms went up around my shoulders on instinct. I nearly screamed, "Gabe!" Nate's voice, confused. He smelled like soap and damp cotton, a towel around his neck. "You look like hell. Come inside." I stammered, shook, told him what I saw. He rubbed my arms and said I was exhausted. He insisted on taking me back out there to prove it was nothing. I didn't want to go. He led anyway. It was gone. The dirt looked tamped flat. No torn blanket, no open hole. For a stupid second, I thought I'd dreamt standing up, until I remembered the jar. I stepped aside, scanned where I'd dropped it, and found glittering shards under a cedar. Not a dream. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I told Aunt Yvonne the whole thing the next day. She kept both hands on her coffee and wouldn't look away. She didn't give it a name, only said some places carry an old hunger the Bible doesn't write about. I laughed, because laughing was easier than listening. A few months later, in November, Nate invited me to his hometown in Maine. His dad's birthday lined up with the island's harvest festival. Big deal, he said. His family wanted to meet me. He said the ferry ride alone would be worth the trip. When I told Aunt Yvonne, her face went stony. "Don't go to that island," she said. "Don't roll your eyes. I'm not joking. I've heard things." I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I said I'd think about it. That night, I wrote a note. I left the island's name and his family's address on the kitchen table. Then I met Nate at the Greyhound, and we headed east. Dallas to Boston was a blur of bus windows and greasy sandwiches. From there, we took a smaller bus to a coastal town that smelled like salt and bait. Then the ferry, an old one, steel gray, with a tired crew that looked like they'd seen storms you wouldn't talk about. We were the last foot passengers on. When the deckhand in the oilskin jacket saw the destination on Nate's ticket, he took a breath like a man about to say something he'd regret. He pulled Nate aside. I couldn't hear the words over the engine, but I saw Nate hand him a folded bill. The deckhand's jaw tightened. He let us pass. By the time we reached the island, the sky was already bruising into evening. The first thing I noticed wasn't the ocean. It was the decorations. Banners hung over the main road, handmade, faded strips of cloth that snapped in the wind. From a few of them dangled birds, dead birds, gulls and cormorants, blackened and stiff, knotted by the feet. I stopped without meaning to. I stepped on Nate's boot. He caught my shoulder and smiled too quickly. "Art," he said. "They call it folk sculpture. Keeps the bad luck out." His smile didn't reach his eyes. People poured from houses when we came down the lane. They hugged Nate like a soldier home from war. A woman squeezed his face between both hands and cooed over him with a voice that sounded wrong for her age. Two men clapped his back so hard my teeth clicked just watching it. Somebody took our bags and told us to sit, eat, rest. It would be a long night of music and tradition. Nate's parents waited at a big old saltbox house near the water. His father, Raymond, had that stiffness ex-military men carry even in their bathrobes. His eyes looked through me, measuring. His mother, Claire, was quiet at first, then talkative in bursts. People kept stopping by to stare. I don't mean to meet me. I mean stare at my face, my hands, my shoulders, as if checking measurements at a butcher. Inside, something watched the doorway. It was a statue, 7 feet tall, driftwood and bone lashed into the rough outline of a man. Antlers branched from its head like lightning, and its belly was swollen. Someone had painted a mouth, a circle of red that crawled down its chest. It wasn't Catholic or anything I recognized. It raised the hair on my arms. "What's that?" I asked, because the air wanted sound. "Our guide," Claire said, so casual it felt practiced. "For long seasons, for plenty." She ran a fingertip along the red paint and smiled without teeth. Nate winked at me like, "Don't worry." He said he respected it because everyone did, but not to read into it. "They take symbols seriously here," he said. "But you're safe with me." At dinner, the staring continued. Faces at the windows, shadows leaning into door frames. Out by the shrubs, a group of teenagers moved low to the ground, crawling, noses to the air like they were smelling something only they could smell. "Ignore them," Nate said. "People don't get a lot of visitors." We went to bed early. He locked the windows. He set a chair under the knob. He smiled. "Just tradition," he said. I couldn't sleep. The noises of the island were wrong. Gulls, waves, and underneath both, instruments. Not radio. Fiddle, harmonica, a mouth harp bending notes until they sounded like metal crying. At 1:30 in the morning, a woman screamed, sharp, sudden. I sat up, eyes burning. Nate didn't budge. He was out cold. By day, the island looked almost normal. Nate showed me the inlets and tide pools, the little streams running down into the sea. It was beautiful in that gray northern way, slick rocks and cold light. Back at the house, his dad was waiting on the porch, chin up, watching me like I had a job interview at his kitchen table. People kept dropping in. A woman in a wool coat looked me up and down and asked Claire why I was so skinny. Claire frowned, like she was disappointed for a reason I didn't want to understand. Raymond nodded once, as if confirming an order. That night, the music started early. I went to the upstairs window and saw the village green below. Men and women moved like they were strings on one hand, jerking in rhythms I couldn't map, swaying and stamping, and reaching for the antlered effigy at the center. Someone poured a red liquid over its chest from a copper pitcher. It steamed in the cold. I was still watching when Nate grabbed me from behind and yanked me off the wall so fast I almost punched him. He didn't get mad. He started to cry. He pushed me into the shadow between the dresser and the wall and whispered so close I could feel the words on my cheek. "I have to tell you something," he said. "You need to listen and not make me say it twice." He told me the thing in our pasture was him. He didn't try to dress it up. He called it the hunger. Then, almost like he hated himself for it, he added, "Some folks would call it a wendigo." Not a costume, not a campfire story. Something old and mean that ran in families here. Some were born with it. Others kept it alive with rites. Fresh blood woke it, he said. That was why garlic, ginger, and heat wrecked his mouth. They dulled it, kept it sleeping. Dallas had been manageable. Bland food, careful living, until the calving on my dad's place blindsided him. "I'm not a good person," he said, "but I'm not your enemy. I couldn't let you come here and not give you a way out." He told me there would be a giving at midnight. 3 kettles, 3 voices, doors I could use, boards that wouldn't creak, kitchen, pantry, back stoop with the loose board he'd already pulled up. Go toward the creek, follow the current to a footbridge, cross to a service road, keep going until I saw the lights of another town on the next island, or the mainland if I was blessed. Don't look back, even if I heard my name. "I can't go with you," he said. "I don't get to leave tonight." He stripped off his black shirt, his dark jacket, his cap, everything that would keep a body from being seen at the edge of the woods, and shoved it into my arms. "Wear this. If anyone sees you, they'll think you're me. That'll help you more than it helps me." He drank downstairs with the men after that. I'd never seen Nate drink before. He threw back clear liquor from a stoneware jug like it burned good. His cheeks bloomed red. He laughed too loud, then didn't laugh at all. Close to midnight, the village boomed like a heart. The kettles, big iron ones, were already on the coals by the green, and smoke smudged the moon. From my hiding spot by the back stairs, I saw sacks being carried, long, heavy sacks that didn't swing right. I heard a woman's voice again, far and thin, and something like hymn singing, except the chords didn't go where chords go. I put on Nate's clothes and slipped into the pantry. The kitchen door had 2 locks. Only one was turned. The back stoop board lifted like he said, quiet as a lifted breath. I lay on my belly and slid into the weeds, holding as still as a deer when footsteps went by. I could smell tallow and salt and something like pennies. I crawled, then belly crawled, then ran bent over. The fields here weren't mesquite and dust. They were scrub and old stone walls and stands of spruce. I passed under a sagging clothesline and saw at the far fence an old orchard. Teenagers were posted there like sentries, faces tipped back, sniffing the night. A woman screamed again. The crowd answered with a sound that wasn't cheering. It was eating. I kept to the ditch where the bushes grew and found the creek by sound. It was so cold it knifed my ankles when I stepped in. The current pointed me the way. The water stank of iron. Tree roots grabbed at my shins, and I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from making noise when I fell. The bridge was a black line against the gray of the night. I crawled under it and then over it, palms numb on the frost. On the other side were real houses, lights, a cross on a steeple, the low murmur of a television somewhere. I staggered up to the first door and pounded. A lamp came on. I pounded again. Another lamp. A face pressed to the glass and vanished. The door opened just enough for the chain to pinch. "Please," I said. "Please help me. The chain came off. The door opened. A man with a hatchet stood in the gap. 2 more people stood behind him with baseball bats. He looked me up and down like I was a wounded animal that might still bite. Then he said, "Get in." I cried for the first time since I was a kid. They fed me toast and water and watched the windows. The old woman who owned the house said I was the second person in 20 years to make it across on festival night. Around sunrise, she said a man who looked like Nate's father had knocked, asking if anyone had seen a missing guest. She told him no. She kept her hand on my shoulder the whole time, like I might jump. By noon, they took me to the sheriff. By afternoon, I was on a boat back to the mainland. By night, Aunt Yvonne had me in a motel near the bus station, shaking me so hard I realized she was the one crying now. I missed most of a semester. I'd stare at a wall and hear that awful harmony, fiddle, harmonica, voices that weren't singing so much as feeding. When people at school asked where Nate went, I said he'd dropped out. It wasn't a lie. He never came back. Sometimes I dream about the pasture. I see the dirt ripple and a pair of hands come up and split it like a zipper. The moon comes out full in those dreams, bright as a headlight. The face that lifts out of the hole is always washed clean. It's always smiling. It's always my friend. And sometimes, God help me, when I cook a steak too rare, I catch myself breathing deeper than I should. That's when I open a window and let the cold night air in, a reminder that certain hungers are old and patient, and they don't need my help to survive. If you ever get invited to a little island off the coast for a harvest festival, and you see driftwood saints with antlers and red mouths and dead birds tied up like ornaments, don't be polite. Don't be curious. Don't be me. If you go anyway, wear someone else's coat when you run. And if you hear your name behind you, keep going. The hunger learns fast. Some folks call it a wendigo. Whatever the word is where you live, it knows what you mean.